worked directly with Tony Robbins and is certified in neurolinguistics from the Robbins Research Institute. He's highly rated motivational speaker and holds a degree in psychology and is a master in high-performance communication skills. Mr. Flores was a former Marine Corps jet pilot. He's a top stockbroker for Merrill Lynch and Lehman Brothers in the past. He's a native Houstonian and is currently CEO and sales trainer for Flores and Associates. Help me welcome Roy Flores.
Thank you, Kelly. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hey, you gotta remember I was in the Marine Corps, so you gotta repeat a lot of things. Drill instructors don't hear very well, so they constantly say, "I didn't hear you." So, how many Marines we've got in here? Hoorah! There we go. Thank you for your service. There we go. We've got a lot of family members too. So, wanted today to just talk to you all a little bit about neurolinguistic programming, which is part of high-performance communication skills or precision skills. And I'm going to do several demonstrations as y'all are eating, and I'll have a few people come up front and do some demonstrations just to prove some points to y'all. So I'll be brief in this. There's a one-page outline on your tables. Everybody should have got one. We've got some extras over here. There's also a one-page evaluation sheet for after the program. So if you don't have one, Kelly's got a few extras if you're interested in getting one, all right? So let me start with, what's the purpose? What's the point of these precision communication skills? What do we want to achieve out of them? And part of this is to enhance our interpersonal relationship skills. When I get hired by companies like Chevron and Intel and Kellogg, Brown & Root, and a variety of other companies, they ask me to get people to perform at higher levels, and one of the ways that we can do that is for them to start communicating much more effectively and interacting much more effectively as well. So I'm going to give you some examples and some ideas on how we can do that, not just from a business standpoint, but from a personal development and self-improvement standpoint as well. So one of the first things that we start with in any organization is, in the Marine Corps, we had 3 leadership priorities. Number 1, accomplish the mission. Number 2, take care of your people. And number 3, build and develop other leaders. So mission-oriented, in other words, having people having a purpose and a mission for doing what they're doing, whether it's in business or in your personal life. And taking care of your people, that meant not just giving them the tools and the equipment that they needed to do the job, but also to make sure that we had the right morale, the right attitudes and mindsets when we went into combat. So that's one of the things that we always work on is morale and the motivation of our troops, the enthusiasm of our troops. So same thing in your business. What kind of mission are your people on right now? Or you personally? And what kind of motivation and enthusiasm do you have day in and day out to go out there and get this done? And then building other leaders is around, in the military, in the Marine Corps, it's evident, in combat, leaders get hurt or killed, and so somebody's got to be able to step up immediately. So what we have to do is constantly be developing other people's. You and your business have to develop yourself and everyone else around you as well. So one of the paramount things that we learned, though, in the Marine Corps, and I've got to go in and teach different organizations is, and let me demonstrate a point to you on this. Everyone do me a favor right now, just raise your right hand as high as you can. Just raise your right hand as high as you can, and now I'm going to ask you to go a little bit higher. All right? Now, put your hands down. Now, my first request to you was raise your right hand as high as you can. You did this. What was my second request? And what did almost all of you do? So, why did you go higher? You were asked to. It was a request made. But what I want you to understand is 2 things. Number 1, you can always do more. Okay? You can always do more. So right now, many of you are stuck where you're at right now, and you have to learn how to go higher and do more. So I have a young son. This is in my second marriage, by the way. He's 20 years old. He's in the Marine Corps right now in Special Forces. And when he went to boot camp, he joined the Marine Corps in July of 2020, graduated November 6th of 2020, came home from school, from the Marine Corps during Christmas. And I asked him, son, what did you learn in boot camp and infantry school? And he said, Dad, I learned that I can do a lot more than what I thought I could do. And that's one thing the Marine Corps teaches you is you can always do more. You can always do better. And so if you're stuck now, you got to start finding strategies to do more and do better. The other thing he said was, Dad, I found out that when we work together, there's a lot more we can get done when we're working together. So it's having that attitude of working with each other and being able to do more. And that's basically what I want you all to start thinking about. Where am I stuck in life? Where are we stuck in business? And why are we not accelerating? And that's some of the things that we have to do to start thinking about this. And that's so I introduced to a lot of organizations neuro-linguistic programming. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is actually a branch of science of psychology. And it deals with how linguistics, language, affects our neurology, how we are programmed through language. So things that we hear growing up, from 1-year-olds to about 7-year-olds, is about 85 to 90% of our mental programming takes place during those years. Now, unfortunately, what were a lot of the words that we heard between 1 and 7? No, don't, stop, get out of there, and I'll give you a reason to cry. All right, so you hear all of these things, and a lot of it is negative. So as a consequence, a lot of our programming tends to be very negative because of the repetitive language that we heard growing up. Because we're programmed through that repetitive language, what we're hearing repeatedly, and that starts to affect our mental capacities as well. Excuse me. So you have to start thinking about changing how you talk to yourself, to each other, how you communicate in a different way. And that's so when I go into these organizations, is I start showing them different ways to communicate that are much more effective. Because again, we are programmed through language. And I want to show you how quickly you can get programmed through repetitive language, all right? I'm going to spell 3 words out loud. And as I spell each word out loud, I want you to repeat that word back to me out loud 3 times, okay? And then I'm going to ask a question, and I want you to give me the answer very quickly with no hesitation, all right? The first word is M-O-P. What word is that? Second word is T-O-P. Third word is C-O-P. And when you come to a green light, you stop. Go when you come to a green light. Kelly, we may need more time with this group. So we go when you come to a green light, but through repetitive language, I've got you thinking a certain way. So your language gets you to think a certain way. And your communication is no more than your thoughts being communicated verbally. So your thinking, your language, your beliefs, all of these things, and your behaviors, we have to change them for you to start excelling and to get out of a rut or where you're stuck and to start excelling and going to a much higher level than you are now. And that's what we want to be. And by the way, advertisers know this. Advertisers know that through repetition, spaced repetition, that you were programmed. They can program you to learn things, and you'll be stuck with them forever. All right? How many of you remember this one? Like a good neighbor, melts in your mouth, not in your hands. M&M, okay? I'm going to see how many of you still remember this one. It's been gone for almost 40 years, or even more. And it's Winston tastes good.
Like a cigarette.
And people remember it forever. And why is it that they still remember it instantly? Because they've been programmed through that repetition over and over and over again. And what advertisers found is that over time, if they repeat a message to you and they can get it to you for at least 180 times over time, that it will be programmed in your subconscious mind. You don't have to think about it, you'll remember it till the day you die, okay? 180 times, so it's that repetition. A lot of people go to a class or something, they look at it, they listen to it for one time, and they think, I've got it. And that's not the way you learn. You learn through that repetition to get it programmed, all right? And it's at 180 times. How many of you have children, by the way? And how many of you have ever told them, how many times do I have to tell you? Yeah. Right? You know the number today, okay? It's 180. Right? So it's that repetition that starts programming our brains and our minds to start excelling and doing better. And so it's learning that one of the battles that you have to fight every day is a battle with yourself. Because think about this for a minute. You wake up every morning and most of your thoughts, your beliefs, your behaviors and actions that you take today are the same ones you did yesterday. And they're the same ones you did last week. And they're the same ones you did last month. And so guess what? Your life is not changing because you're still stuck in the same behaviors, the same thought patterns, and the same emotions as well. So when you're stuck in those patterns, it's hard to start achieving excellence and going much higher than what you're doing today. And by the way, there are 3 types of communication that we deal with. One is internal communication, your internal dialogue. Now, we mentioned that most people, their internal dialogue, because of how we're raised and hearing so much negativity, the internal dialogue is usually not very constructive. So we have to change the internal dialogue, and I'll give you a demonstration here in just a minute of why that has to change. And then there's, of course, the external dialogue of how we talk to other people and exactly how we talk to them. So when I say precision communication skills, we have to work on very specific words, very specific phrases, and very specific questions as well. So it's very precise in how we do things to get people and get ourselves to start achieving excellence. And so it's doing both, all right? So, and then there's, of course, how many of you know that you convey messages without saying a word? How many of you know that? It's your nonverbal communication, body language, eye contact, posture, breathing, all of that. And by the way, people read your nonverbal body language and nonverbal cues like eye contact and gestures. They read that first before they actually listen to the words. All right? So you actually work on posture, breathing, those things so that you're communicating non-verbally much more resourcefully. Do me a favor, look up here for a second. I want everybody to put their fingers in a circle like this, all right? Now, when I tell you put this circle, I want you to do it instantly when I tell you to put it there, all right? No hesitation. Right now, I want you to put this circle, put it right now on your chin. Put it on your chin. On your chin. That's right. Your chin. Okay? Some of you are going, well, which one? Which one? And I said, put it on your chin. Where did most of you go? Because you're watching body language first, and then you're listening to words second. All right? So it's actually the body language that conveys a signal, a message to people. And so we work on body language. And this is what we do leadership development with executives. That's one of the first things that we talk about is the nonverbal communication that they're giving away. So this gives you an idea that these are some areas that you need and I need to improve on constantly. All right? So words have power. Words have power, and I want to give you some demonstrations of those words and how we are affected through our communication not only mentally and psychologically, but emotionally and physically. So, and if you want to start achieving much more in your life, then it's changing this communication structure that you have already going. And I want to give you some demonstrations of this, just to give you an idea of how strong communication affects us, and that we're not aware of it. So a lot of the training that I do is just to get people aware of what's going on, because most people are not aware. So let me, sir, before you start eating, can I get you to stand up for just a second here? I need a couple of guys bigger than me to do this demonstration. I used to be 6'5", but after the party, I'm only 5'6" now. What's your name? JP, are you right-handed? Okay, nothing wrong with the right arm, the right shoulder, no shoulder surgery? Okay, so what I'm going to do with JP is this. If any of you go to a chiropractor that practices what's called applied kinesiology, aka, what they do is they muscle test you to see where you might need an adjustment needed. So for JP, what I'm going to do, since he's right-handed, I'm going to ask him to put his right arm out parallel to the floor, and I'm going to ask him to resist. I'm going to put my hand on his wrist and ask him to resist. Now, he's a little bit bigger than me, not much. Okay, and so for me to get that arm down would be really hard, okay, to do that. So let me have you stand up here so we can face the crowd. So I want you to put your right arm out, parallel to the floor. We're going to muscle test you. Now, this is muscle testing, not strength test. It only takes a second or two to see if it's strong or weak, okay? If I was trying to do strength, I would yank on it for a long time. All right, ready? Resist. Okay. So JP's strong and a little bit stronger than me, not much, okay? But I want to give you the power of language and internal right now. How many words per minute do we talk to ourselves? Can I tell you that? It's about 200 words a minute. What? 200 words a minute, and for most people it's a negative dialogue. So JP, I want you to repeat the phrase for me 3 times. I want you to repeat the phrase, I am weak and unworthy. Put your arm back up again, JP. Now, ready? Resist. Cannot resist, folks. Cannot resist. Shake it out, JP. Shake it out. All right, hold on. I don't want to leave you like that. All right. So whatever you're saying you are, guess what? You are. So that's why we've got to change that 200 words per minute internal dialogue has got to change, all right? So now, JP, let me have you repeat this phrase. I'm strong, powerful, and worthy.
I'm strong, powerful, and worthy. I'm strong, powerful,
Strong, powerful, and worthy. All right, JP, put your arm back up again. See if you notice a difference, JP. God, that's a right at the hand. All right, let me have my fellow Marine up here. All right, so just for a second, this will be one of the last demonstrations that I do, but I want you to see how powerful this is. Simplify. You were that. What's your name? Ronnie. Ronnie. Okay, so Ronnie, you right-handed?
Yes, sir.
Nothing wrong with the right arm? Okay. We're going to do the same thing we do with JP, all right? Only now, it's going to be external communication. What we're hearing from other people also affects us the same way, okay? So, here's what I'm going to do. So, Ronnie, if you put your right arm out, parallel to the floor. I'm going to check you here, and you resist. Ready? Resist. Okay. Ronnie's strong. Ex-Marine. Really strong. Now, but here's what I want to do. I want to have 3 people, starting with you, sir, before you take the next bite. 1, 2, 3 people. I want you to look at Ronnie and tell Ronnie, Ronnie, you're doing a lousy job. All right? Go ahead.
Ronnie, you're doing a lousy job.
Ronnie, put your arm back up again, Ronnie. And let's retest it. Ready? No power there whatsoever. Folks, language is affecting you in many, many ways that you're not aware of. And so that's why you have to start becoming aware of how all of this works and how this is affecting you, not just psychologically, mentally, but emotionally and physically as well. All right, so I need 3 people, 1, 2, 3, to tell Ronnie, Ronnie, you're doing a fantastic job.
Ronnie, you're doing a fantastic job. Ronnie, you're doing a fantastic job.
Fantastic job, Ronnie. Put your arm back up again, Ronnie, see if you notice the difference. Ronnie, thank you. That's great, Ronnie. Thank you so much, Ronnie. So I do these demonstrations just so people start becoming aware that there's something here that's going on in how we use language, both internally, externally, and non-verbally as well. So we get down to now a little bit of the precision communication that takes place, and that's through part of this comes from what is in psychology is known as scotomas. And a scotoma is basically in psychology is creating a blind spot in your mind. And so we have blind spots that are created in our brain through language that we use. Now let me give you an example. If you're around someone, you have a child or a coworker or someone or yourself, and they say, I don't know how to do this or I can't do it, the minute someone says, I don't know how or I can't, that is called a scotoma. And that scotoma means that when they said, I don't know how or I can't, they literally have shut down the neurological pathways to the brain that have the solution. In other words, they're not thinking nor can they access a solution when they're saying, I can't do it or I don't know how to do it. So there are other scotomas, but these are some of the most common ones. So if they are turning the neurological pathways to the brain with their language, then guess what? We can turn those neurological pathways on through language as well. So here's what I want you to start thinking about. If you hear someone, if you've got a child at home that says, I can't do it, I don't know how, your question comes right behind that by saying, if you could do it, how would you do it? If you could do it, how would you do it? And so now the child or your coworker, whoever you're around, the minute you ask the question, if you could do it, how would you do it? What do they have to start thinking about now? Solutions, answers. And so you get the brain working again to come up with an answer instead of being turned off when they say, I can't do it or I don't know how. So we can use language through a variety of scenarios in order to empower not just the brain, but the emotions and the behavior. I want to give you an example. I was doing work for Chevron a few years ago downtown in the deep water drilling division. And we were doing a meeting for all the drill site managers. These are the people that go out on the drilling rigs out there in the Gulf of Mexico. And they're 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And we had one of the senior drill site managers that's in charge of the rig out there in the Gulf of Mexico. He came to me, we were in a workshop just like we are right now. And he stood up and he said, Roy, I've got a question. He said, I've got a 16-year-old daughter, extremely negative, just doesn't have anything positive to say about anything or anyone. And my wife and I are constantly fighting with her. And he says, what can I do in order to improve her attitude and her emotional state? And again, you start using language in a very precise way. So here's what I told him. I said, Chris, here's what I want you to do. The exercise I'm going to ask you to do is you got to be persistent. Because I can tell you what the answer is going to be in the beginning. I said, when she comes home from school every day, whoever picks her up, you or your wife, have got to ask her this one question. What was the best thing that happened to you today at school? What was the best thing that happened to you today at school? And I said, you got to be persistent with that question because I can already tell you what it's going to be for the first couple of weeks. And what is it going to be, folks? Nothing. Nothing. And that lasted, just like I told him, for 2 weeks. In the third week, she finally came into the car when they would pick her up, and she'd say, when they would ask her, what was the best thing that happened to you today at school? She said, I'm alive. Right? Well, that's an improvement from nothing, right? And it took a couple more weeks, And then she started talking about something that was positive for her during the day. And then she started doing it every day. And Chris, and about 2 months later, we were in another seminar with all the senior managers, and he stood up and he said, Roy, I'd like to share something with the class. And he said, I'd like to hand up my cell phone out to everybody. It was around 3:30 in the afternoon. And he said, every afternoon, if I'm not home, when my wife goes to pick up my daughter now, she texts me at 3:30 the most positive thing that happened to her today. And he says her whole attitude has changed, her behaviors have changed. She's a joy to be with them. So it's just getting people to change how they think and how they feel. And so we can do that through language if you know the precise language skills to use. And so that's what we want to start practicing, is to start thinking about how do I improve myself and how do I help those around me improve as well. To start bringing in that high performance and that excellence and start achieving much more than what you're doing now. I want to do a few affirmations with you because another way of improving yourself is and there's a variety. I do a personal development and self-improvement class, and we go through all of these different steps to make that happen. And by the way, on my outline, that outline there, you've got my name and phone number and email if you want to contact me. Kelly got all my contact information as well. So let me open it up for questions for just a few minutes. Anybody got any questions, comments? Okay, everybody's busy TV. All right.
Yeah, really.
That's good.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, you're a busy real estate broker, you get up in the morning and you're thinking, oh my God, here goes another day. So what would you say to yourself in the morning? You're using the neuro-linguistics.
So first of all, I want you to think about something. When you wake up in the morning, when most of us, our normal reaction when we wake up is to think about, what do you think are your first thoughts? We already have a routine. Go to the bathroom, brush our teeth, take a shower. But our very first thoughts in the morning, are they really constructive and saying, man, I'm powerful, I'm great? What are we thinking about? All our problems, all the challenges and all the things that we're going to have to go through today. So you have to change that routine. So first thing in the morning when you wake up, give thanks to whoever you pray to. Give thanks. I don't care if it's God, Buddha, Allah, or Jesus, or whoever you pray to. Give thanks for having you wake up another day on planet Earth. So I give thanks for that one day. The next thing right out of your thought process is, what do I have in my life, or who do I have in my life that I can be grateful for and appreciative for? And so gratitude goes a long, long way. And by the way, we teach journal writing and how to do this through journal writing as well. But the first thought is thanks, and then the next thoughts are, what can I be grateful for in my life? Who are the people, the things, are my skills and talents? Gratitude, appreciation. And then the third step is, and by the way, there are affirmations that you do as well. Okay? So we teach you very specific affirmations to start saying. But the last step is you focus on, what's my mission? What's my mission? What am I working on? And what's one step that I can take to whatever I'm working on? What's one positive step that I can take on my mission today? Okay? And we'll practice a couple of affirmations here too. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So, and again, she's asking if, with sales professionals, how do we sell more? Well, by the way, the first order of business is motivation, attitude, mindset. That's once you get real powerful in your self-confidence and self-esteem, and we work on that. Then you go to what are some of the strategies that we can do in sales and marketing. And we come back to precision communication in that as well. Let me give you an example. I was a stockbroker for many years. Now, people process information in 3 ways. Visually, they see it, and some of you are very visual learners. Some people though learn best by, guess what? Hearing it. So some people are auditory, and a small percentage of the population is what's called kinesthetic. In psychology, kinesthetic are people who learn by feel, and that's a lower percentage of people. So when I go to schools, I have to teach teachers how to teach kids in all 3 modalities, because if you're a kid that learns best by visual, you've got to see it. If you're a kid that learns best auditorily, you've got to hear it. But if you're a kid who processes kinesthetically, you've got to feel it. And guess which mode they don't teach very well in schools? Kinesthetic. So if you've got a child that's got learning disabilities, most likely, they're kinesthetic processors. And so there's ways of working with that to get them to advance rapidly. So in sales, we understand that you've got to use all 3 modalities. So when I was prospecting on the phone, and by the way, at Lehman Brothers, it was 100% telephone cold calling, all right? So you're dialing the phone, you did 300 dials a day to try to talk to 25 people. And you had dialers next to you dialing the phone, so it's not just you dialing 300 times. But one of the things that I would say in order to get them in all 3 modalities is, I would tell people, Mr. Jones, if I could show you an investment idea that you felt could get you a 50% return over the next year, would you have an interest in hearing more about that opportunity? So if I could show you an investment idea that you felt could make you 50% over the next year, would you have an interest in hearing more? And guess how many people say no to that? Yeah. So everybody says yes to that. So it's learning how to talk to people to get them to say yes, to get them to be more receptive to your thoughts and ideas. So influence and persuasion skills are paramount, and that's what we teach, are those influence and persuasion skills, because and how to use language and how to use your self-confidence to make all of that happen. Any other questions? Good questions. Thank you for asking those questions. All right, let me do 2 affirmations and then we're done. I'll stick around for a while. And again, you've got my name and number there, so if you'd like to contact me. We work with companies, we work with schools and individuals with personal development and self-improvement classes. So if you have an interest in any of those areas, there's an evaluation sheet on your table if you care to fill it out, and that puts you on our database to let you know when we've got other programs coming up. All right, so do me a favor right now. I want you to, and I'm going to ask you to, I know some of you are still eating, but I'd like for you to do this. I'd like you to just stand up for a second. Everybody just stand up for a second. And I'd like for you to just take your 2 index fingers like this, 2 index fingers like this, and then I'm going to tell you to bounce them chest high and say, I'm getting stronger and healthier every day. Put your fingers up, and then say, I'm getting stronger and healthier every day. When you do that, Stanford University found your white blood cell count goes up instantaneously 25%. Wow. Just by saying an affirmation, you start to impact your health by saying the affirmations in a very specific way. So we use affirmations as one of our building programs, building blocks to success. And so that's what you're doing, is programming yourself for success. So the last affirmation, and we're done for the day, again, put your index fingers like this, and you're going to bounce them in rhythm chest high. Only this time, I want you to stand and breathe very confident. In your most very confident stance and breathing. By the way, we were calling posture and breathing. And so now I want you to bounce your fingers chest high and say, I am a winner. Louder.
I am a winner.
All right, so treat yourself like a winner and each other, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your kind words and exercise. Donna, I have some announcements for tonight, or this evening.
Wasn't that wonderful? Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate all the exercises and the practice. So, my name is Donna Eccles, for a few of those who may not know me, which doesn't look like too many, but there's a few. And I am privileged to be the membership director for this fabulous organization of Bakerin. We are a commercial real estate group, and about once a quarter, we have an appreciation of our members and for our partners. And this afternoon, we're doing special recognition for all of our partners.